Your show's rubbish.
Okay, I'll count you in.
Thanks.
Okay. 20, 19. No, I'm just... Okay, go. Okay, so you ready?
Okay, go on.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, and welcome to the Trout Spinners podcast with Miles and Gary. Hello,
Hi.
Gary. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, you got a haircut. Big news.
I've had a haircut. Yes, it
Yeah.
felt like making love to.
A hairdresser.
I was going to say a beautiful lady, but I've never experienced that. So,
No.
yeah, it was incredibly pleasurable.
Yeah, because it's just that the weight of the hair is gone. No,
Yeah,
you've
I
got
felt lighter.
little crest head.
Huh?
Little crest head. Little
Crest?
round head with like sort of spiky head like Gary Rhodes.
Gary Rhodes.
Gary Rhodes.
Oh, no, rest in peace, Gary Rhodes. But yeah, no, my hair is not. It's much shorter than Gary Rhodes. But yeah, it's back to its length that it usually is.
Yeah.
It's like the length it was before was longer than it's ever been. But yours is still longer than I've ever seen you. But you've got your haircut Saturday, haven't you?
I can't. I'm just deeply excited about it. It's just that thing of having a bit of self-care. You know, everyone needs a bit of self-care in these times.
Yeah, we were briefly talking about haircuts before, and we were saying like how awkward it can be to speak to, because a lot of hairdressers, they speak to you, and the one I've got now, I had the same guy every time, and it's all right. Like he's all right. We just chat a bit. But before that, when you just go into new hairdressers or random people, and you sit there. I don't know if anyone's like me. You sit there, desperately hoping they don't speak to you. So I don't think there's any other time where I'm less in the mood to talk to another bit than when I'm getting a haircut. So, but luckily with Johan,
name plug,
little French fella.
But you tip him as well, don't you? A sly £1.
I'm like Steve.
Yeah.
Well, I usually tip him £2, but the price had gone up £2, so I only tipped him a quid. It went up from £13 to £15. So
he's got to make his money back. You'll notice that my voice is a bit husky today. It sounds a bit Barry White-esque.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't in any way, but I mean it sounds deeper than it normally is. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna power on through this podcast because
the walrus of hate.
It's just really.
Are you unwell then?
No. I went to a pub yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I went to the first pub.
Without me? You cheating on me with other people?
I just couldn't. I was just fascinated just to sample what it was going to be like.
What was it?
It was interesting. Like it's like talking about a new thing, but something that you've done.
Yeah.
And it was nice, but there are like rules. There was the one pub we went to. We would like you had to put down your name and everything, and then you were directed to a table. Then there was table service, and you realise British people aren't really made for table service. We're not used to it. But particularly in pubs, like they're not. Well, yeah, but restaurants is different. Like with bars in most European countries, it's table service, isn't it? And there's no problems. But with this one, it's like it was just really awkward because no one really knew what they were doing. But so I sat down with my drink and I was sitting outside. Luckily, I had some ciggy. That's why my voice hurts. That's why my voice hurts. And no, it was unusual. One of them I had to pay and then wait to then collect my drinks and then go and sit down. I think it's better to sit outside, definitely.
Oh yeah, for us anyway. For us it always is.
No, I'm looking forward now to going to more pubs, but at the same time I'm like, it's quite nice just to have a glass of wine at home.
Yeah, I quite like drinking at home. Like I don't drink at home every day or anything, but it's the bad thing about drinking at a pub is like getting home and the stress. Like when we meet and it's in London, I've got literally a 3-hour journey from door to door.
Yeah.
And I'm quite, I've had a few drinks less, and I'm it's a horrible journey. Whereas even in Brighton, you've got to walk home and get your key in and sort of get used to being at home, take your stuff off. Whereas at home, you're already at home. You're already like in your relaxed space. But yeah, we're planning on doing the show live. Obviously, we've been doing it via Skype for a long time, but when we don't live that near to each other. I live in Brighton, Miles lives in London. If you're not from England, that's about 100 miles apart, maybe 90 miles. So Mars is going to come down. We're going to do
Thank
it.
God.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. Apparently quite
Do
shit
this.
show. Huh? Yeah, we've had some people didn't like it, but well, what can you do? There are people who don't like the show, be honest. But
They said we talked too much at the start.
yeah, and
So maybe we should. Do you want to like continue?
no, we don't have to be a slide to them. They also said, another comment said we talk over each other too much. That's definitely true. Another
Yeah.
said we go into things too much. Like we go into things in too much detail, which again, probably like that's kind of true, but I quite like doing that. Then there were just some nasty comments, but I just will say this, and then we'll get on with the show. We do get nice comments as well. It's not just, I don't want to give the listener the impression we only get horrible.
Well, some of them are nice, like this one. We will be doing XFM in the community.
This is a little taster of XFM.
This is just a little taster. This is Daisy Harvey, who got in touch last week. She's listened to a lot of shows. She listened to about, I think it was like 13 or 14 over 2 days. So I said, you're a devotee, and she said, why don't you call it a D-Trout-E?
Yeah, that's quite good.
A D-Trout-E.
D-Trout-E. We've got a couple, I guess.
Yeah.
I was going to say we are, but I'm not really that into
I'm not a fan. I wouldn't listen to this show.
But let's say so. So coming up, we've got, as Miles just trailered there, XFM in the community. We've got your feedback. Actually, this week we're going to focus on quite a lengthy feedback we got, but probably won't have time to get to lots of comments, but we'll get back to going through lots of comments next week. Coming up, we've also got our favourite quotes, which I know a lot of people like. That's some people's favourite. And we've also got, which we're going to start now, is a general sort of discussion about the particular show that we're reviewing. Miles, what is that show? You're going to give a little prelude. You love doing it. I love listening.
Here's a declarative, all right? This week, we discuss episode 23, 25th January 2003. I really am just literally reading that out. The now famous or infamous, as the case may be, Monkey News makes its debut. Ricky performs the jingle for the first time in the feature, originally called Chimpanzee That. As always, we'll put a link in the description of the original show, so once you've listened to that, you can then come back and debrief with us.
Do it the other way around. You could get all our comments and feedback and then listen to the show.
I feel it's tainted. Then you've got your views and opinions already before.
Hopefully our views are, at least valid views amongst lots of valid views that there are out there. So it's just, you're just getting two people's views on it and then listening to it. It's just a different way of doing it. You can do it either way. So let's not get bogged down in that. That guy will be typing back again. They will talk so
How
much.
do you eat your cream egg, Gary? What are your initial thoughts on this particular episode, Gary Forrestal?
I don't really have any.
No.
No. I think it's kind of, it feels to me like a more playful episode than last week. There isn't the nasty antagonism of last week. It's a very good show, very interesting. Steve is the butt of, and I think this is partly why Carl isn't being antagonized so much. Steve is the butt of a couple of different sections of the show. It's a good interaction between all three of them. As you say, Monkey News, the official Monkey News, although the genesis of it came 2 shows ago.
It's actually Ricky's idea as well, isn't it?
Well, Ricky's idea to do, because Carl says, why don't you do a story about a monkey? But once Carl had done a story about a monkey, most people are going to say, Carl, could you get some more stories about monkeys, please? Because that was quite entertaining. Like, it was, it was a good show. And I like, there's an anecdote about Carl's past, which is never bad. Any anecdote about about the one about Carl's dad?
Oh, the catalogue.
Actually, just on that. He said he fell out of a company because they went back on the deal they were going to give him. He said, don't send him the catalogue. They sent him a catalogue. And he said, I'm going to charge you 26 pence a day to store it. Well, I've worked out, Miles. That today, Carl's dad is now owed £1,660 and 10p.
So Littlewood's owe Carl's dad that much money.
And people say I don't do prep.
Yeah. He does maths as well.
I worked it out from the show was, I think, say 20th of January. So I worked it out a week before that, because that's when it's kind of seemed to start. So a week before that to today, it's £1,660.
God, he's a thousandaire. He's got lots of money.
Yeah, he can buy another passport. So it's my general impression is it's a good show. It's a nice one to listen to. And it feels more playful, more kind of there's less intenseness that was there last week and is there some weeks. So yeah, what about you? What do you think?
This is why you get into the XFM shows. This is kind of demonstrating the best of all three of them. Like there's the makeup that I really look for in an XFM episode is Ricky's sort of slurs and just messing around and trying to disrupt and be as disruptive as possible. Obviously, I like a bit of antagonism between Steve and Carl. That always just puts a smile on my face. And just great stories. You mentioned one of them about that. Then another one about Twiggy's being turned in from a nightclub to being turned into a warehouse for toilet rolls. And also Carl talking about his brother, so I'm going to have a load of women round. If you stay upstairs, you can sit inside with your tractor. Like those three are what I look for in a show.
And also, Jim just saying, I like the line where he says, loads of women are coming knocking at the door saying, I've got a kid and it's your marks. I can totally believe that. But also, when I hear stories like that, Ricky comments on one once about Christmas and he says, I can't even imagine how horrible that must be. Going to Carl with his brother. I know he was young and he didn't appreciate it, but can't imagine how horrible it must have been for Carl, who's kind of not like that. He's not into that stuff. And he was young anyway. He was too young for it anyway. Just being around, it's like being in a brothel. It's Christmas Day, there's raunchy parties and things. There's brothers there.
When he said no, people scamming food as well.
And when his Carl was on his tractor and Carl's brother his arse was disappearing.
You got it.
That was a pathetic setup for that. I ordered a. It's crap. I ordered
cheap. It's very cheap.
Well, I actually got two of them. For some reason, they sent me two. I only wanted one. But I ordered a wood whistle for the show because I was going to do along to the Smiths.
There's a light that never goes out.
I loved it. You can't. It's so bad. But,
it looks like it was made from Australia, Rolf Harris's old wind. I can't say that anymore.
Yeah, it did. Good. That's a good reference. Yeah, I always feel a bit uneasy referencing because I was going to reference another thing like that, which is that it's interesting. It kind of dates it that Ricky did a Jimmy Savile impression on this show.
Yeah, that's
it's not like a favourite, but it's just kind of.
He did interview Jimmy Savile, meet Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, a lot of people said. But anyway, let's get off of that.
Yeah, let's get off.
So yeah, that was myself. We could do what Andrew Phillips suggested, and this could be like the boring thing. But the thing is, only I've got one, so you're at a disadvantage.
Well, luckily, everything that I say is entertaining, including this. I like
chilled out entertainer. He is.
I do have something office related later, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Ooh. I like Carl's dad saying he hates coming to London. He bought like a scone and a cup of tea for 3 people, and it was 14 quid. And then Carl says we had an argument about that.
Yeah.
He would
now it would be about 25 quid.
Yeah, I know.
Then that's kind of cheap. And Carl's dad sounds an interesting person. Right, Ricky says I'd love to have interviewed your parents, and they both say you'd like to have done a documentary of Carl being at home, and obviously it was never done. Carl's dad does sound a really interesting person. He sounds one of those people that's really bitter and miserable, but has a really good sense of humour. Like he's quite dry with it and witty, and that's probably where Carl gets it from. But I think that I would love to interview, like we said about Suzanne wouldn't want to, so we wouldn't intrude. But Carl's dad, I love any anecdote that Carl tells about his dad. He sounds a really cool person, even though he steals from phone boxes.
From little Welsh fellas. Yeah, and also they must have a good relationship because Carl often, he hasn't got a mattress for the bed, so he calls his dad, says, I know a mate who's got one in the back of a van. And then just at other times where he's just asking for general DIY tips, clearly they do share a lot of similarities. Yeah. Now that he is approaching like middle age, he's like nearly 50, he will be turning into his dad. And it's funny, in other episodes they go, Carl was talking about, getting older and maybe becoming 60. And then Carl sort of does a nod, and then Ricky says that nod suggests to me you can't wait to be that old.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel the same in some ways, but yeah, it's isn't it strange to feel? I don't know how old Carl's dad is. I imagine he's maybe in his 70s or 80s, but Carl now, because you kind of touched on it, but Carl now is almost, or maybe is the age his dad was when he
that's
did the
true.
show. It's so weird to think about. And another thing I like is like near the beginning of the show when Ricky says, and it shows Carl in such a good light, where Ricky says the little conundrums he put to Carl, and he said, it was ridiculous, like, he got wedged in, he got wedged in because of his dick. But and then what Ricky says Carl's response was, which it obviously was, they don't do it on air, but Ricky's retelling this, and Carl says, and Ricky says, what would you do? And Carl says, I'd use the situation. I'll make some cash. I said, you're not going anywhere. Do you want a pudding? That quick thing is like a lot of stand-ups wouldn't even think of something that funny that quickly. It's just, it's not, he's not doing it on air, but it's a really funny response to come up with so quickly. And again, it's one of the things that shows Carl's not just funny for being stupid. He is funny in itself. He's a really talented, quick guy, because that's a funny thing to come up with. If you think, we've heard that story a million times, so it doesn't register, but I'll make some money, you're not going anywhere, do you want a pudding? That's such a funny thing to say to that sense. Anyway, that's
well, he goes on, doesn't he, because he says there were two men who got stuck in each other. Was it the same person from before? If so, why was he there twice?
That's funny as well.
I like it when Ricky I like it when Ricky brings Steve into the room. He says, do you remember when I brought Steve into the room and said, what do you think of that?
Yeah.
Just love that direct. He doesn't say, what do you think of Steve Merchant? He says, what do you think of that?
Yeah, like a piece of meat or a piece of like a car or something.
I know, but there's also the fact that why would you even bring that up? Like, normally you'd go, hi Carl, this is Steve Merchant. Carl, this is Steve, etc. If you'd like to shake hands and stuff, you wouldn't even say that. But the fact is, he knows how will be disturbed.
Yeah, Ricky, if you think about it, it's just in very, very good ways, and some not so good, but mainly good. He's a very strange person. Like, so few people are like Ricky. Like, the things he comes up with Carl, like, a man took Viagra in a restaurant, he got wedged in because of his dick, what would you do? Another man two gay men got stuck in each other, what would you do? Another episode, he's saying, he went back to his girlfriend and she asked, what were you talking about with Ricky? And he couldn't think of nothing to sort of say. And I think the thing they were talking about was, if you had to sleep with a squid to have a baby, would you do it? But Ricky, not many people are like that. And Ricky is kind of, he's weird, but he's very antagonistic in a playful way. I think this episode it's playful. Anytime he mentions Steve in any way, he's basically saying to Carl, take the piss out of Steve now, please, right now. I'm passing you the ball. There is an open goal there. And to be fair to Steve, he took it all those years, and but that's why I said it.
On that occasion, he did actually set it up because they're talking about the 50 most eligible bachelors in England, and he's in there.
Yeah.
Steve Merchant is in there, and I was looking at there are some women, ugly fat women. Well, don't put the Welsh in twice. Who do have infatuations with Steve Merchant. There's one messaging board here, and the comments on there, I have to read out a few because people have. They really fancy Steve Merchant,
you get a lot of people get that. Like another one who's got that is now someone who you wouldn't think, just before you read out the comment, someone who you wouldn't think is Larry David. Jennifer Lawrence has said, I've got a real crush on Larry David. Not like a crush I had on someone else, which wasn't sexual. This one is sexual. She literally said that. So lots of women love Larry David. Now, if he wasn't famous, I don't think he'd have those devoted or detrouted followers. But yeah, what have these women said? Because I'm jealous of this. This will make me jealous because I want women to write this about me.
These are from a while back. So this is from someone. They said, why would you not believe I have a crush on him? He's beautiful for one, and in a genuine way, not in that manufactured sort of Orlando Bloom way. And he's in the most blunt terms a comedy genius, or at least he is a major part of a TV show that was pure genius. Personally, of all the celebrity crushes I've had to say I'm actually quite proud of this one. He's deserving of a following of people throwing themselves at him.
That's what I was prepared to say, like, oh, they're taking the piss, but that one clearly isn't taking the piss. Like
No.
I thought he was going to say, "Oh, Steve, he's so lovely. I love his lips. I want to kiss him." Like that. Those comments were probably taking the piss. But that one
Yeah,
was like,
there's ones like that here too. He
give us
says,
one,
"Oh,
give us one more, and then we'll move on.
oh, I have a bizarre infatuation with this freakishly tall boy. Why? Can't tell you. I don't want to have a crush, that is. Though I suppose I could see why if I were to analyze it further. But no, strange eyes. I must purge through embarrassment. It's the only way I'll learn. Look at me at, and then she gives a website. But yeah, loads of people talking about how they find.
She says, "Look at me." So she's basically using this forum to advertise her own probably pornographic website. That's disgusting. It's disgraceful. And after the show, send me the website. But anyway, we'll move on. So yeah,
Oh,
Steve
wait,
mentioned.
sorry. This is a better one. I think it's the enthusiasm and potentially a thinly veiled, self-deprecating streak that attracts me to the Mr. Merchant. I dreamt I bought a ticket into a dreamscape where the fool was making time with my friends. Ah, sorry, I shouldn't have access to the internet.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's done well for himself. And he's got quite a. Anyway, we won't get too bogged down in how people look, but he's got a
Or
very nice girlfriend.
yeah, he does.
So,
Good on him as well.
yeah, no, I seriously think good on him. And it's that thing of like people will sleep with anything as long as they're famous and funny as well. But no, I am pleased for Steve because he took so much flack from Carl about being single and not having a girlfriend, and you're obviously what are you happier with the fact you don't get any cards? You don't have to send a card, or the fact that you don't have a girlfriend. And he's like, during that period, he didn't have girlfriends. He probably didn't have a girlfriend till he was like, I don't know, his late 20s at all. So now he's doing well. He's
That's so sad, isn't it?
by the way, I'm quite self-deprecating. If anyone wants to write in,
Well, I was going to get onto that. There's a Gary Forrestal forum. There's one person in it.
That's true. Yeah, we won't be talking about him or her. Could be anyone. Yeah. So coming up, we'll talk about our favourite quotes in the show, and then we've got XFM in the community, and apparently we'll be choosing, which I've just remembered, a song to put in our vault as well.
Yeah. I was in the newsagents earlier, and I was just buying some bottles, right? Bottles of liquid,
Bottles
right?
with
Carbonated, adventurous liquid.
Were apples involved?
They were involved in the production of this liquid, and the guy, he's quite a chirpy bloke. Like I've said before in previous episodes, I know him quite well. Like
I become like a recurring character.
A recurring character, the crazy newsagents bloke.
Yeah.
Hello, but he's in there quite a lot, and he obviously needs to come up with little games and little interactions to make his day go quicker. And he was sort of using the bottles as a kind of, and he was like moving them around as if it was, one of those what's underneath the cup kind of game. And then he's like throwing up the bag of Haribo that I bought and
I really thought you were going to say bag of heroin. It sounded so much like you were going to say heroin.
And he's like being sort of playful with my groceries. I mean, you can't really call them groceries. And he was like throwing up the bread and like whacking them in my bag, passing them on. And then he gets the card reader out and he sort of flips it a bit.
Is he a juggler? Has he got 3 legs?
Yes, he got 3 legs. And I felt obliged to laugh at the sort of the interactions he was making, because I just think I can't just like not say anything.
It's all, isn't it?
I need to sort of laugh or acknowledge that what he's doing is quite playful and funny, but it's not that funny that I'm going to like full on let out a huge laugh. And so I was like, I just please can you just bag the items? Please can you just bag the items so I can just get out of here as quickly as I can.
It's like you're trapped at that. For that moment, you are trapped because he's got your items. You pay for them, but you don't have them.
And there was 5 items, and I was like, please can I just pay with my card and just fuck off? Like, another thing, right, that is big news today is it is the 19th birthday or advent of The Office being on telly. And so 19 years ago today, the birth of the best UK sitcom, maybe even global sitcom.
I mean, we've talked about this before. I know this might sound like I'm a real fanboy and things. I'm not. I'm critical of Gervais where I'm critical, but I would say The Office is the best piece of art I have ever seen. So if you include paintings, TV, theatre, films, all any form of art. I think The Office is the best. I think it's the best.
Makes me laugh though. Just go. What kind of art have you seen recently, Gary?
Yeah, The Office series 2, episode 6. No, but it's got a lovely through line. It's got lovely arcs of stories that happen over 2 series that you really buy into. It's the most sweet, loving, but also incredibly funny series I've ever seen. I always said you can kind of judge a person by whether they like The Office or not. If I meet someone and said, "Oh, I didn't really get on with it," okay, I've made a mental note then to kind of back away from that person over the next while, like to kind of mentally back away from them and not really interact with them, because it's so good. Anyway, that was my thoughts, and that's amazing that it's 90 years. Now we'll come back to the D Trout Spinners proper show, which we're doing, which is Ricky Gervais Show episode 22, I believe. We had a general discussion about the show. I think this is I'll sort of sum it up, but I think we both like this one quite a lot. This is one of our favourites, and actually it's got one of our favourite little segments, which is the Only Fools and Horses little car, which we both we're going to get to on favourite quotes. But now this is favourite quotes. We'll get a jingle. Hopefully that'll stave off the negative criticism. We'll do 5 each.
Okay, I've got a bit more than 5. I'll be honest with you, but I'll spin through them. All right, we can't just bin everything in 1 week.
No. Well, we can according to the critics of us.
Carl said that as well. You know.
Didn't someone say it's lockdown? Hopefully they'll get bored and stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on. We have got nice comments too.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your first one?
That was it. We can't just bin everything in 1 week.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying that to me, like because I said. Oh,
no,
sorry, I reacted wrong to. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I was. I really thought you were just saying that to me that time. Ooh. Mind you, dinosaurs have gone. That's one of my favourites. Yeah. Again, a great quote from Carl.
Just stay sat down.
Yeah, I had that. I'm so annoyed when you do one of mine. Or I might have just got used to it, which is relates.
Well, come up with some stuff then. And I like that one because
yeah, that's right.
Carl was so defeated at that time. He's like, they don't work. Some of the rock buses don't work. Well, come up with some stuff then. For Christ's
sake. I agree. I like that quote as well because it's so real. Carl's not hiding back. He's not. You know, a lot of producers on radio shows would sort of say, would not allow their emotions to be sort of expressed on air like that. But Carl kind of just does it. He's just so frustrated and he doesn't hold back from sort of letting us know that, so I like that quote as well. Oh, okay. So this is one of my favorites. It's not a laugh out loud one, but I absolutely love it. And Miles knows how much I like this because I always use this on him. I know. I'm gonna let me say it, but
can I just know exactly what you're gonna say?
I know, you know, because Carl's just talking, you know, but he's kind of rambling a bit, and it's so insulting. He just says, "Are you talking to me?" You know, like, of course he's talking to you, but I don't know what. It's just so
was I so busy listening to a song I was playing?
Yeah, but he's so. It's just, I don't know. It's so dismissive of like you're talking to me, and actually that's one of the ones I use more than any other in real life. And people don't realise it's not to get a laugh because it's not a funny line, but I do like saying to people and to Mars who knows about it, but other people who don't know about it just say, "Are you talking to me?" Like I say that to my mum quite a lot.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's what Carl said about. They were talking about Monkey News, wrapping up Monkey News. He goes, "Another one next week." I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, I love that.
Just looking to bin everything.
I know. Again, it's his trueness. It's his realness, and he doesn't hold back from expressing his emotion. This is part of a series of a little segment of the show that I've got a few quotes from, but I just do two. Don't call me a plonky, you fucking wanker. Don't call you a plonky. And then I'll just do, because you might have it. This is one everyone loves. We could have even called the podcast this.
I think we probably will. Yeah, bills.
No, I mean the podcast overall.
I know. Oh, right, okay. No, that is fantastic. Like that whole bit after Rockbusters during the clues and the Only Fools and Horses thing.
It is Rockbusters because it's
it's like, but just Ricky's so quick, isn't he? He just takes that simple bit, Rodney you plonker, and then takes it to the nth degree.
That's again.
Taking the piss out of catchphrases,
Yeah.
and that sort of sitcom humor, which relies on those on catchphrases. Sorry,
Yeah.
and he just literally goes with it, runs with it, literally pushes all the syllables and the words and the letters together.
No, he does that thing. But that's the thing. The thing I like about that, I've kind of said it before about other things that Ricky has said, is he'll take something and he'll start with something really close to it. So like with Dickie Anders' nicknames, it's Dickie Anders. It's even the Big Dick, the Dickmeister General, But then he comes up with, then he takes it, Diddler, you little diddler. That's nothing to do with Richard Anderson, but he just takes it. So that's over a few shows. But this one, he starts with Rodney, you plonker, which is an actual quote from the show.
Don't call me a plonker, you flunker.
Then he starts okay, if anyone's seen Only Fools and Horses, which I just forgot the name of, but Miles edited out smoothly, then Rodney Plonker is a very common phrase. If you're from overseas, I'm only explaining this because people overseas won't know at all. That's like a real well-known sort of thing that one of the characters says. But then he goes to, don't call me a plonker, you fucking wanker. And then like Uncle Alf shit himself again. Like those things would never have been said on the show at all. And then he just goes from even insulting it to just making noises. Just like, Bill. It fits so perfectly because Carl's sort of demeanor sort of goes down, like he's getting pissed off, just as Ricky goes, yeah, Bill, shh.
He goes, I can't do it. Oh, go on, just come on. This one's great. Do you know it about Monkey News?
Oh yeah.
They tell this story about the monkey with the tattoos.
Yeah, have you heard it?
Laugh and they go, coach go, what? Do you know it?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Have you heard it before?
Yeah.
No one's heard that shit.
Yeah. And again, this is the first Monkey News, so it's kind of significant, but. Yeah, you're right. It's the first time they called it Monkey News / Chimpanzee That, and it's not the best Monkey News, but it's all right. But it's kind of, if I happen to come across this episode, I think to myself, oh, good. The next kind of 20 episodes have all got Monkey News, because I always forget what point Monkey News is introduced. So now each episode from now on has a Monkey News. Maybe we'll do a little feature with.
Well, I always get excited when they're talking about the Rockbusters prizes, and then they go, oh, not the one with the little car, because I know what's coming up then.
Yeah.
I know that this is the episode with the Yabil. Like it's foretelling, the episode. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's like a trigger. It's like a trigger when you get, trigger.
That's a character. Trigger was a character.
Trigger actually is a character in the show. But,
Trigger, you fucking
but it's a good trigger, like it's a happy trigger, like oh yeah, that's like it's associated. It's like a mouse pushing an electronic button because he gets a bit of cheese each time. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get the cheese this episode. Yeah. Have you got any more favourite quotes, mate?
I'm gonna blitz through these, but yeah, I do. That's rigging nanny. I've got.
That's Rainy Smell Boys.
That's the Rainy Smell Boys. And then I've got this probably is my top quote, and I really like this one because again you mentioned last week, at least we'll have one from Steve every week, and I didn't deliberately put this in, but it's I better take that helmet back.
Oh yeah.
That's a great one. That's a great one from Steve.
Yeah. Again, it's a kind of a self-deprecating one, and Steve's great at that. Steve is very good at self-deprecating, and my God, he had to be. Like, I'm sure he's sensitive in some ways, certain ways, and actually, just genuinely annoyed. There's times when Ricky genuinely annoys it, and you can hear him like say, and Ricky's even laughing even more that he's genuinely upset or annoyed Steve. But to be fair, Steve, he comes back every week. He takes the piss out of himself. He's dealt with it in the right way, as to not just be sensitive about it, but to take the piss out of himself even more, which is often a clever way of dealing with people taking the piss out of you. And
I always think with Steve, like with live radio, there is that pressure to be funny, to be engaging, to come up with stuff all the time. And I'm
struggling today.
I can tell.
There's a few times Mars will edit them out where I was just saying something. I'm going to admit this, where I was just saying something and then I just stopped. And I was like, I can't think of what I'm saying. I'm like, cut this bit out, mate. Cut this bit out. But then usually I wrote. Yeah. And when we both of us want to do live radio, so obviously I wouldn't be able to say, Mars, could you just edit that out, please? We get the program controller going, you fucking get out.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like Steve, I feel like Steve does have to sort of try and keep up with that. I feel like he does sometimes feel pressure to come up with stuff to be funny, to maintain, to be as funny or more funny than Ricky and Carl.
Yeah, he kind of does, but I never get the impression that that's kind of something that he's. If you're in with Ricky Gervais and who's very funny in a certain way, Carl's very funny in a certain way. I always find Steve's attitude quite relaxed amongst in the sense of like that he's never really trying to kind of compete. Like there's sections of the show that last minutes long where it's just Ricky and Carl talking and Steve would just be sat there. I never get the impression he's kind of desperately wanting to be funny. One thing he does desperately want, actually this is the last thing we discussed in the episode because I meant to say this before, but he does want to appear as clever as Ricky. Like when Ricky talks about stuff that's being clever, I get the impression that Steve is like really desperate to appear as clever as Ricky, but he's never like that bothered with the funny stuff.
Do you have an example to back that up?
Well, yeah. So this is an example of where I think a few shows ago, a listener actually used what happened in this show as an example of where Steve didn't know something that Ricky was saying, and Ricky was kind of mocking Carl for not knowing, but he kind of deflected it away. And when Ricky's talking about if you build more buildings, will the world fall? Which is ridiculous, but he says, what fundamental error has he made there, Steve? And Steve, I think, doesn't know, because it's not an obvious thing. Like, it's not obvious that a tree comes from stuff that's already in the ground and in the air. Like it seems strange that you have a seed, you put it in the ground, it becomes a tree. It seems like more stuff. Like it's not a very simple. Obviously, to a physicist, it's simple, but Steve kind of doesn't know. I think Steve doesn't know. He's like, I can't begin to explain it. So I remember a listener using that as an example. So I wanted to point that out. I can't remember who it was, but I couldn't begin to explain it. No, I don't think Steve can explain it actually. So there's he desperately, he would never admit to not knowing that, but he would admit to kind of not getting a joke or not getting a Rockbusters or something like that.
Was Atlantis real?
Yeah.
I just genuinely didn't know that. I've seen it in like films, and it's like it's almost mythological. I guess that's why I sort of wonder if it's real. So it is real, yeah.
Yeah, I think so because I think it was a city that was on a low sort of floodplain and basically kind of got. No, I'm just reading here. It's fictional. I just looked it up. I just keep all that in. But no, I think it's apparently it's fictional. But there are places that have been flooded and are under. Like I think what I was thinking of was Pompeii. I was kind of conflating the two in my head.
Well, Pompeii was like what? A volcano.
Yeah, I know. It's a totally different thing. But it was something that was destroyed. Like Atlantis was supposedly destroyed. So. Yeah, Atlantis is a fictional island mentioned in an allegory on the hubris of nations in Plato's works Timaeus and Critias, where it represents the antagonistic naval power that besieges ancient Athens, the pseudo-historic embodiment of Plato's ideal state in the Republic. And we'll be talking more about that next week in detail.
So now it's time for XFM in the community. This is where we invite listener feedback and questions and problems. If you have just taken Viagra and you are stuck in a restaurant chair,
get in touch with me.
Have a pudding. Have a pudding. I'll just start this one straight off, Gary. These are Rockbusters from Ellen Wright. Ellen Wright, who got in touch with us, a big fan of the show. See if you can get a couple of these, Gary Forrestal. Make sure when brushing Barbie's hair to split it down the middle. DP. It's a good one. It's a very good one. Make sure when brushing Barbie's hair to split it down the middle. DP. Come on.
DP.
Popular country music star.
Dolly Parton.
Well done.
Hang on. Oh, okay, so it's a Dolly, like Dolly. Dolly Parton. Dolly. Yeah, is it? I mean, Ellen, I'll give you a 7.5 for that one. And bear in mind, Ellen, some of mine have got 5.5 at least. So don't worry about it.
This one's good. This is from a band from the early noughties. Just have to say that a little bit. Someone's about to make a speech at the wedding. TT. Excluding the definitive article.
So it's TTT.
Yeah.
There's not the take that.
No, because there was never the take that. Think about it. What do you do? What do you do just before a speech?
Oh, I lie, drink.
Yeah, kind of. But what do you do before?
Toast.
Kind of like toast, but not really.
Well, that's what you do before a speech.
Yeah, but before you do the toast, what do you do to get everyone's attention?
Strip naked and run around the hall.
That's not my wedding.
No.
I'm not about my wedding.
Yeah, we're not talking about Mars' wedding. I'm dreading. Ting the glass.
Ting?
Ting
Say that again.
the glass.
Say the word ting again.
Ting.
Ting tings. The ting
Oh,
tings.
Tings. I don't even know them as a band. I vaguely have heard of them, but yeah, good one.
Could you show a bit more enthusiasm for Ellen? Right. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for emailing.
Have you got any more of Ellen's?
I do have one more, but you're not going to get it.
Put it out there because she's
Snoopy's mate has suddenly disappeared. CP.
Charlie.
I had to look up this artist because I had no idea.
Oh well, who is it?
Charlie Puff? Puff?
Charlie Puff. Mark, we talked about
Charlie Puth. Check him out. Some good tunes from him.
Okay, all right. No, thanks, Ellen. Really appreciate you getting in touch with your Rockbusters, and they were good. They were very good.
So this one is from Jack Skelton. Jack says, just wanted to say how much I'm loving your podcast. After listening through the whole catalogue of XFM shows countless times over the years, your podcast is a joy to listen to, and it's great to have a whole load of new XFM related stuff to listen to. I know it's been mentioned before that the XFM shows have often helped people get through mental health issues or have been a comfort during dark times in their life, but I wanted to say how I found your show to be an extension of that. It's been a rocky few weeks for me personally, so just wanted you to know that your podcast has helped me through when I've had a rough day. So thank you so much, Jack. That's really great to hear.
That's really sweet, and I'm so sorry you're going through a difficult time. It's certainly something I can appreciate, Mars can appreciate. But yeah, I really hope things improve for you, and it's so nice to know that this show, and obviously the XFM show, has helped you through, and as an extension of it, this show's helped you through. I really appreciate your feedback, Jack, and yeah, thanks very much.
And despite the flaws of this week's show, do continue to listen.
Why can't everyone be like Jack?
Anyway, so he goes on to say, just a few things I wanted to get your thoughts on. These are good thoughts. I know a lot of people say they skip the Claire episodes, but I would argue that they actually produce a lot of the show's best moments. I always thought that without Carl there for Ricky to produce, Ricky and Steve really come into their own. They riff off each other so well, and you can really see how these two managed to create something as genius as The Office. I sort of wish there was more Carl absent episodes, just so that we could get more of the Gervais Merchant Gold.
That's a really good point, and I think we kind of discussed that when we were doing the Claire episodes, and I think you hear them in a purer form, like it's them. They're not there to antagonize Carl. You kind of take the protagonist out of a story. You see the other characters kind of interact in a different way, and they're definitely good episodes. I would happily have more Claire episodes. Just the only thing I wouldn't want is that all of them were with Claire and maybe Carl sat in for 3 episodes, because then it wouldn't be the classic show it is today. But I certainly like coming across a Claire episode. We've got one coming up actually it's a few episodes because they do it it's their March and we're still in January, but it's a great episode. And yeah, it gives you a little break from, like, even though we love it, we love Carl baiting and we love Carl's reactions to things, and Ricky and Carl and Steve as a threesome. But yeah, Jack's right. I think that we kind of don't hear them in their kind of purest form, which we do when Claire's there. You hear them in a different way, and particularly Steve actually really is like trying to impress Claire, particularly the early ones. He's definitely horny. He is, but I would just say at this point we are still hoping to interview Claire, and probably after when lockdown's eased, we'll hopefully get Claire on the show
and meet Andrew for a pint, which I'm particularly excited about. That would be lovely. I'll also add to that. I think it's just interesting to know about their sort of working relationship, what they were like when they were just coming up with stuff for The Office. I mean, we've said it before, I would love to be a fly on the wall just to watch them, write an episode of The Office, just what kind of things were said, what kind of things did and didn't make it. I mean, we know the things that did make it, obviously, but as we celebrate the 19th anniversary of The Office, it would be great to know what the writers' room for that will be like.
Oh, yeah, we've often said more than anywhere else, I think I'd love to have been a fly on the wall during the writing process. Not even like to hear them talk about, like, make up funny scenes between each other, but just to see how they sit, what positions they sit. Do they sit opposite each other? Like how they. I know one time Ricky takes his shirt off because he talks about that. But like how relaxed they kind of. Because when I write, I kind of walk around like a lot. Does I can imagine Ricky doing that and getting bored and walking around. Just that I'd love to know their process, not to copy it, but they want to be like Ricky and see. No, not to copy it, but just to see it and appreciate it because they came up with something so amazing.
So Jack then says his second point is, don't know if someone has already asked this, but who is your favourite / least favourite XFM guest character? A few have come to mind are the posh blokes on the scavenger hunt, those happened in series 1, and the doctor that tells Carl about the finger up the arse, the cockroach lady, etc. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on the smelly eyebrows woman who calls in during XF Family Fortunes.
Yeah.
It's nothing like the Les Dennis things. Although she's become almost a mythical villain of the show, and it makes me cringe whenever I hear it. I always thought she gets a bit of a bad rap. Maybe she was just nervous to be on air to start with and didn't know what she was getting herself into when she called into a shoddy tin pot radio station of a Sunday afternoon. Again, love the show and keep it up. We definitely will keep it up.
Well, yeah, I just to kind of address Jack's point. The smelly eyebrows lady. Yeah, I don't sort of go along the forums and things, so I don't know what other
Gary, people fucking hate it.
I didn't know that she was became a villain, but that's interesting to me because I've always thought of her. I've never thought of her as terrible, awful. I don't hate it, but I've always thought, my God, you got a chance that me and so many people would have loved to have had to be a guest on air, to be a contestant on air, and to interact with them. And you said the weirdest thing that didn't work. It was so weird. It wasn't related to it. There was no through line. You couldn't link it back to something. It wasn't like Harry Hill weirdness. It was just weird. It's the weirdest thing you could possibly have said, and you ruined your chance. So yeah, I did.
But also the idea of a smelly eyebrow really creeps me out. There's something intrinsically weird about the word smelly and a facial feature that is in no way smelly.
Yeah, like it's probably out of me, it's the least smelly thing on my body. And I smell bad.
I do have a favourite person who did email in.
I'm just thinking who mine is.
Mine probably definitely is Probably definitely. That's Oasis's next series of albums. Would a series of
Go on, keep all that.
Is if Carl could actually give it a lick.
Give it a look. Yeah, she's good. She's very good. I think obviously my favourite kind of person, he's not a guest on the show ever, but he's probably, we've interviewed him. I'm not biased, but Dickie Anders kind of contributed the most to the show. He's probably my favourite. I also love the guy from Do We Need 'Em last week. Was it last week or the week before?
Yeah.
I think it's the week before. And he got so, I don't like him, but he was so angry that it made for great radio. I loved it. So he's one of my favourites. Probably my least favourite, maybe Woman Who Has Ghosts.
Oh yeah,
and I know you're not a fan of her. I just want to say thanks so much, Jack. I really appreciate your kind comments, but also your interesting comments. Those were both two very good points. Please do carry on interacting with the show. As I say, I hope things get better for you, and it's lovely that this is providing at least one person with some comfort.
Oh, that's not true. Loads of people love the show.
Name them.
Well, what now? What do you mean now, or what? Like whenever?
Yeah, so thanks, Jack. Any more comments?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay.
I would just like to say we do Rockbusters every single week on our Twitter feed of a Sunday. So do head over there. That's at Trout_DE, or email us like Jack did, trout.de@gmail.com, or on Instagram if you're on Instagram. Duchess _.
No.
And I'm there, and I post stuff about films that I like and all that sort of thing. All right, Gary, I want to wrap up because I'm bored of talking to you, mate. We're doing This is the D Trout Spinners Library. Now you said vault. I can't help get the word vault out of my head. I think it's a better word. But anyway, this is a Spotify playlist that we maintain every single week. Each week, Gary and I select a song each that either has some sentimental attachment or a song that we just we just love, or a song that's on Gary's iPod at the time that he's looking at right now.
Yeah, no, I thought of one. Didn't even look at my iPod. It's over there. I stayed here. This is just a song I like. It doesn't have any sentimental value, but I've always loved it. I've always kind of, when I'll be honest, right, when I was younger, I used to play this song and imagine that I was kind of coming out on stage. It's so embarrassing. Say I won a competition, or I just come out on stage and this is playing. This is playing. So it's EMF. You're unbelievable. I don't do that anymore, and it's just I wasn't arrogant, but I wasn't thinking that I'm good enough to be coming out on stage. I would just imagine EMF, yeah.
Out of all the songs you can
you're unbelievable, and then I'd walk out, but waving like that, thank you. Still hoping that'll happen one day.
Well, we've often thought I wanted to write a film where it was like a guy who or two guys who do a podcast come out and meet Jonathan Ross for his show.
One guy, I know you.
It'd be Graham Norton these days, wouldn't it? What song would you pick to come out if you were on a TV show? I think people do think like this. If you look back at your life or your career or whatever, and you go, what would you sound like in being interviewed by Jonathan Ross? You go, well, we met, it was a funny story actually, but it's about 9 years ago now. Well, for us, it would be about, we'd be 70 years old, and they go, how did you meet Gary? And I was, because you've only just become successful now.
Yeah.
Well, we met about 50 years ago, and Gary was, we used to like listen to these shit radio shows called the XFM radio shows. No one's heard of them. We did a moderately successful podcast. When I say moderately, I mean unsuccessful podcast. A few people listened to it.
Get Jack out; he'll tell you he likes it. No, I think that. But that is me. That's exactly what that's what I used to do as a child, as a sort of teenager. So it might have been Michael Parkinson at the time, but just you're unbelievable, down, and I'd just walk out like the audience.
Gary, take a seat next to. Take a seat next to Judi Dench.
Yeah.
Mine is going to be, because they do play. We have been talking about the whistle that you've got there, and I think they play Cemetery Gates or something recently, or this in the past episode. I am going to pick a Smith song. I'm going to pick my favourite Smith song, which is "The Boy with a Thorn in His Side." I think Morrissey's a bit of a tosser now, but my God, did they write some fantastic songs and beautiful floaty guitarists from Johnny Marr.
Yeah, Johnny Marr's a great guitarist. He inspired Noel Gallagher, so that can't be a bad thing in my book. Like Noel Gallagher loves him, and they wrote some amazing songs, the Smiths. And also, I like the Smiths, and I don't like the Smiths as much as you. Like, I don't actually know that song that well, so I wouldn't kind of know it off heart. But the Smiths songs were different to anything else that was out then.
But it's hard to be funny in a genuine kind of way and to make it.
You're telling me. You're telling us.
Jack D said a bit about stand-up. In his last but one tour, his live tour, Jack D brings out an instrument and he addresses the crowd and he says, thank you for being cool about this, because I know how annoying it is when a comedian comes out with an instrument and they're going to be funny and do a funny song, because they know that people just go, their automatic instinct is to go, oh, really? Like, and the fact that the Smiths can write, they can write fantastic songs. They're inspired by the works of Oscar Wilde and other sort of poets and playwrights and literary figures and cultural figures of the time, and make it into something that's like not just really funny but successful, and and he did like 4 albums as well. Let's not forget that.
I mean, that's what
he's got a great sense of humour. Is it, like I said, a bit of a tosser now of Morrissey, but
well, but they're not funny songs in the way that Flight of the Conchords. They're not comedy songs, but they're attempting to make funny points, and I actually don't think they always get it right. I don't think they're always, like, sometimes they're kind of lyrics trying to be funny and they're not, but the vast majority of the time they pull it off. But I will check out, what's that called? A Boy with a Thorn in His Side.
Yeah, and it's a great video as well.
I'll check it out. But this has been the D Trout Spinners. I've been Gary Forrester. With me has been Miles Burnell, my diligent little puppy over there. Gets a bit excitable sometimes, but
That's true, actually. Yeah.
yeah, I've several times where I've just stopped speaking today, and Mars had to cut it out. So thanks, Mars, for editing in advance.
Do you know what? I've enjoyed myself, and I'm looking forward to us two being reunited in the pub and doing some live shows.
Absolutely, can't wait.
For you, it'll be fantastic. I know. Personally, I can't wait to sleep on your floor again, mate.
Yeah, well, you get in a hotel. We've discussed this. Actually, we have this. Mars said he was get a hotel, so I've got that on record. But yeah, that won't be happening for 3 or 4 weeks probably. But yeah, we're gonna meet up again, do a live show, because if you listen to all of our podcasts up till episode, I think about maybe 14, they were all recorded live in a pub or my flat. So yeah, we kind of. I know we kind of talk over each other sometimes. We kind of stop. It's because of Skype mainly, so it's a hard medium to broadcast over. So thank you for your forbearance. We appreciate it. And yeah, that has been the D Trout Spinners. Thank you. Join us again next week for another one. We usually put them out Friday or Saturday. Have a good week. Take care, and we will see you next week.